So coming from Brantford
Hmm.
is Matt Thompson, and coming from Jacksonville, downtown Jacksonville, Florida, is Jimmy Casello. Matt's been with us many times on this program, and big part of what we've done for the last couple of years in the Gainesville area, in the Jacksonville area, throughout North Florida, uh, and fantastic to have him here. And then Jimmy joins us. This is his first journey onto this podcast. Although, Jimmy, I remember back in April of 2020 when you and I on Facebook Live went through pretty much all 30 of Mr. Carnegie's principles, one a day for 30 days in the month of April that year. Do you recall that?
Definitely. How could I forget?
That was a that was a lot of fun going through that. That was our own way of coping with the pandemic at that time. As the world was shut down, what could we do to help other people maybe get through their day, right? So
Oh
I
yeah.
love Mr. Carnegie's principles. So, gentlemen, we have a lot of things coming up, a lot of things to talk about today, and plans and futures. One of the things that I will mention is that we graduate another class in Alachua County, Gainesville, Florida, this coming Tuesday night. We have another 20 plus individuals that'll be going through the program and graduating on Tuesday night. And then we start a new class in Gainesville. There will be an orientation on September 5th. Class will start September 12th. You can go to jacksonville.dalecarnegie.com to register. That's jacksonville.dalecarnegie.com to register for that program. And I know that both of you have plans for programs coming up in Tallahassee and Lake City and Valdosta, Matt, and Jacksonville. Jimmy, what is on the agenda? And welcome, gentlemen, to the show.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, thanks for having us. Yeah, very, very exciting to join the team here in Jacksonville in North Florida. Coming up, ideally we have a tentative date to start our Dale Carnegie Skills for Success in-person program here in Jacksonville at the World Financial Center, which will be on Thursdays beginning August 10th. We've got just under 10 enrollments, people that are interested in taking the program, and hopefully room to grow. Definitely room to grow. And we're looking forward to it. Just over a month away now.
That's awesome. And we'll get that on the schedule, right? So that people can go to that Jacksonville.Dale Carnegie and register there. When you go to register, you just hit find courses, register, and you'll be able to pick the one of your choice in the area, either Gainesville or other places. How about you, Matt? How are things in your part of the world and shifting to that Tallahassee territory?
Well, we're excited about Tallahassee. We're kind of opening up new territory here for us. And right now we're looking at building like those in-house, that corporation, large corporation classes before we get into the public classes. We really want to let the large businesses, the chamber, know that we are here and we are ready, and then we will expand.
Awesome. That sounds great. What now? You both have been involved in this. You've gone through the class. You've been graduate assistants. I've got to work with both of you in that capacity. Without getting too technical about what the program is, how do you see yourself in the daily life utilizing the principles that you learned? I mean, like, not consciously, but the things that you do, subconsciously now, just by natural doing things different. What are those things that you apply in life that you learned in the class?
Well, yeah, Bob, that's a great question. It's almost like, where do you begin? And I always say you start with a smile, which is a big enhanced relationships principle in the Dale Carnegie world. And if when you start with a smile, you begin with positivity, and you warm up to people, which they're more apt to do that back. And that's where you build your foundation. And that's one thing that's heavily stressed in Dale Carnegie, especially early on, from making connections with people, right? And how important is that in business? Extremely important. So if you're able to start that way, which is a principle that's covered very on in Dale Carnegie, the sky's the limit from there.
If you look at the Golden Book, it's Principle 5, right? It's that smile. It to me, it's like if you're plugging something into the wall, you know how if you travel overseas, you have to have the adapter to be able to plug in, because you got an American plug and they've got an Italian, different type of system, electrical system there. So without the adapter, you don't plug in. And that smile is kind of, to me, kind of like the adapter. It lets any plug in. It makes you welcome, to be there. If you didn't have that, I of course don't need a hair dryer. Both of you guys do. But if you travel with your hair dryer, you can't dry your hair if you can't plug it in, right? And that smile to me is that. It's such an engaging thing. And you always wonder what you notice about people first, and that smile it's almost like welcoming, like you can talk to me. Hey, I'm open to listen, because of a smile. Matt, your thoughts?
So with me, what I love about this is it took somebody like me who is more comfortable with machines and process and all of those things and made me comfortable with people. Jimmy and I were having a conversation the other day about how, in a lot of ways, we're polar opposites and able to take this material and live a better life because of it. And it's amazing how I'm able to help myself and help others just by living this intentional life with this material.
I didn't know both of you before Carnegie. I knew Matt before Carnegie from the standpoint of he came in the first day, his first class. But Jimmy, you were a graduate of multiple classes when I first met you. So I didn't know you before. But what you say there, Matt, I really see in both of you is the process side guy and the people side guy. And now you both kind of have that. I watched the other night, Tuesday night, when one of our students approached you and asked you some questions about a talk that you had given the week before, Matt. And the way you were able to absorb what she was saying and just her ability to open up to you is something that would not have happened 2.5 years ago, or whenever you first came to the class, which, it's the ability to be approachable is one of the key things.
Absolutely. And, it's funny because in business as a leader, I've always used all of those things, but it's anytime I'm outside of that, I'm in charge kind of realm, that I would just shut down and people wouldn't come around me. And now it's opened up to where I don't have to be in charge. I can actually have these conversations with people on an even footing, and it's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, I don't know where it was that I heard this. It could have been at a conference, or it was somebody within the Carnegie world was talking about what it's like to be in business in the Carnegie world. I remember him saying that, you know, our clients, the people that we talk to, our customers, our participants, look at us as a mirror of is this the type of person that I want my team to be? So if you're a business owner and you're thinking about investing in your team, to enhance their skills as far as communication and people skills and their confidence and their ability to manage stress and worry and their leadership foundation, all of those things, they look upon us as the personification of what they want their team members to be. So if we're not putting that smile on our face and we're not, interacting with them and asking good questions and being that positive influence, they're going to turn us away, So we've got to walk in there, and it can't be phony because people smell that, from the get-go. It's really living that intentional life. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, Bob. And that's, you talk about applying the principles on a daily basis, right? And that's why we got into the program, right? To enhance those qualities that we have of ourselves. And that's a big, to elaborate on that, that's a big strength of Dale Carnegie training in general, right? Some people say, well, I'm not the best listener, or I'm not the best public speaker, or, I do certain things, certain nervous habits when I speak or whatever. And, the trainers are going to point that out, and it's not going to be real comfortable, but that's exactly the opposite of what Dale Carnegie training is, right? Yeah. We focus on somebody's strengths and enhance those strengths and take their minds off of maybe what they don't do well, and they don't even think about it. Yeah. So they actually sharpen their skills subconsciously sometimes. And all that takes is applying the principles of Dale Carnegie, to your everyday life and going from there. And through our program, the 8-week-long program, you have time to do that in between each week and work on those things in your everyday life. And that I think is just the strongest part of and most powerful part of Dale Carnegie training.
We're talking with Matt Thompson and Jimmy Casello of Dale Carnegie Training of Jacksonville about leadership, life, and a lot of other things. And Matt, you've seen, without mentioning names, you've seen a lot of successes, mainly coming out of the Gainesville area, where you and I have done a lot of work over the last couple of years with Doreen Wiebe and some other people. What are some of the key components that you see in individuals when you know that they've made that personality shift to being more confident?
As they go through this program, everybody comes in the same, not knowing really what they're going to get out of it or what it's for. And the worst part is that, there are so many things out there that they're almost feeling like, oh, it's just another poster on the wall, right? Then they come in there and, the second session, the third session, you start to see that the ones who are in the back are now in the front. And the ones who are quiet and waited for everybody to say hello to them are now saying hello to everybody else. And it's those little things that really start to tell me that, okay, here, this one is they're on the right track. What I love about being a graduate assistant, I've done it a couple times now. You and I've worked together a couple times. Is that I tell everybody when I start out the first session, it is a group of people. And it's in a large room. By the last session, the room is so small and the people are so tight that you feel like they have become friends, they've become family, and that there are connections in that room that will last forever.
All right. So how do you take that? Now, sure, that happens. You've got a group of people that you've had as a captive audience for 8 weeks. 26 hours over those 8 weeks, you've held them captive in this room, and they've got to know one another, and they've got to enjoy each other. They've got to hear their stories. Yet those aren't always the people they work with. How do you take that and apply it out in the world when you're away from that big room that became smaller, that group of strangers that are now friends? How do you take that and have the confidence to use that in public outside of that world, Matt? What do you know? I don't know if there's an answer to that. I mean, I'm sure there is. Yet, how do you see that transforming?
One thing is that, especially in the public classes, you never know who's going to be in that room. And you start getting to know some of these people and the accomplishments that they have had, the things that they've done in their life. And in that room, everybody's on equal footing. And that gives you the confidence to speak to somebody who you may never have spoken to in your life before, the CEOs or high-powered people. And that right there is a confidence booster, of course, because these people are asking you for help, and you're in groups, and you're seeing that people are people, no matter of what their title, no matter of their education, no matter what, people are people, and we get to those people on that level. And once you can speak to another human being on that human level, none of that other stuff matters. Mm-hmm. And that is really the confidence booster that I see with this course.
Mm-hmm. Jimmy, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Matt nailed it on the head, and something that, Bob, going back to your question of, when you get out there publicly in the world and, meeting new people, making new connections, we talk about it in Dale Carnegie, stress and worry, what's the worst that can happen, right? What's the worst that can happen? Take the initiative, introduce yourself to somebody, start the conversation link, right? Which is what we talk about in Dale Carnegie. And when you follow that, right, which is what you learn within the program, I mean, the friends, the network you can build is, the sky's the limit. But it all starts with taking that chance. And when you take that chance and you make that commitment to get enrolled into the Dale Carnegie class, you've already overcome half the battle. Then it's applying it on a daily basis, which is what you're talking about, Bob, which I think becomes way simpler, once you learn what to do.
Yeah, trusting the process.
Trusting the process.
When you start putting all the components together, that's one of the things I love to share with the class. Is the first week is that you can read the book and you can get a lot out of it, have a successful world. You can experience the class and apply yourself in the class and be successful and learn a lot of things. Something magical happens when you put the two together. When you start reading the book and you really start applying yourself and practicing what you do, and one of the faults of us as humans is that we'll learn something Tuesday night. We have an assignment for next Tuesday. We'll start working on it the following Monday. So it's really up to us, and our graduate assistants and myself in the program, we try to encourage people, like, don't wait until Monday. Don't wait until next week. The minute you walk outside of this room, that's when the assignment starts. The minute that you leave the building, you have an opportunity to practice what you learned. If you stop at Publix on the way home, and you have an opportunity to use the clerk's name, put a smile on your face and practice that. You have so many opportunities, and that's it. It's living intentionally, like Mr. Carnegie talked about. It's an incredible process.
And Bob, to elaborate on that, Matt and I were talking the other day. There's so many great leadership sales books out there, right? That are available for us to purchase and read. And there's principles within those books. And when you go through, read the book, and you're like, man, I got to figure out how to apply this at work. So it's really, you either do it and hold yourself accountable to it, or you don't. And when you're in the Dale Carnegie program, in the process, you have no choice but to apply those principles, because that the next session you're getting up in front of the class and talking about the principle that you applied, and then the benefit that people can get from applying that principle. So that's the magic in Dale Carnegie. You can spend as many thousands of dollars you want to on leadership books and self-development books and material. But if you're not applying it, then it goes to waste, to your point. So that is our job as consultants, right? To make sure that the participants are going through it and applying this stuff and are excited to come up and talk about it.
Yeah. It's an incredible thing. I was working with a team last Wednesday, and I started thinking to myself, in the sales world, you can take those leadership principles and apply them in a sales way. I mean, it's a sales guideline. Begin with praise and honest appreciation. What a better way to start working with your client, by doing your homework, finding out what they do well, and being appreciative that they've allowed you to come into their business to work with them. Begin with praise and call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. You don't want to tell them everything they're doing wrong, yet you can help them see in a different light some areas that you may see that they could get better at. Talk about your own mistakes before criticizing other people. I don't like anybody that goes in and starts cutting down the competition, and I saw that in there. Ask questions instead of giving direct orders. Salespeople early in our career, we tend to walk in and we're like a funnel. We just blow things out at people. All our statistics are facts and everything else. When you start asking questions, you start finding. So those leadership principles are great at just guiding you in the sales world too. A way to live your life.
So Bob, what I like also is that I hear a lot, and as a matter of fact, I have to tell you that I said, oh, I do these all the time. You know what? I've read the book. You and I have discussed before that I read the book several times before ever even knowing there was a class out there. And I thought, oh, I'm doing this. I'm you know what? I'm always friendly to people, and I'm always doing this. But then you think back and like, was I really? Well, I thought I was. But without that intention, without that being mindful of what I'm saying and when I'm saying it, who I'm saying it to, I don't know that I was using those. The other thing is that we talked, you and I have discussed before, is that I told you that I came from thinking when I went to that first class, oh, this is weak, right? Turn the other cheek, always do. Okay, you know what? Okay, right. I've heard this. It wasn't until I went through the class that I realized just how hard that is to actually truly, have somebody who is on the other side of the table who is not using those principles and to intentionally use them. That's tough sometimes.
Yeah.
I tell the participants all the time, as a GA, go easy on yourself at first. It's going to take you a while to understand when to use these and how to. I tell them I would have a conversation and I would be on my way home 4 hours later and go, I could have used that principle,
Yeah.
and then that time got shorter and shorter as I studied more and thought, and was more intentional and mindful of it, but yeah, that spark is being mindful of, okay, you know what? Yes, I need to use this principle now.
Yeah.
And
That is such a strong thing that you just conveyed there, Matt. That is, when you said that when you came to the class, you looked upon it as weak, turning the other cheek, and I had a member of my family, a distant family, say the same thing to me. Oh, yeah. You're one of those Carnegie people. You let anybody run all over you. That type of attitude. And what you said is so profound. The fact it's easy to yell and argue. Anybody can do it. The bridges it burns some of them can never be rebuilt. Just can't be. So much more difficult to have a conversation, to get the emotion out of it and have a conversation. And that's one of the key things that we learn in the program, and that is a big thing. We've all mentioned it to people, not only is this going to help you in business, it's going to help you in your personal world too, family, relationships. I mean, and it's, one of the things that we mention all the time is in Mr. Carnegie, it's honesty, it's integrity, it's doing it sincerely. There's no manipulation. That's not the purpose for being behind that. It's doing it in the right way for the right reason. Thank you for sharing that. That was, that's impactful. I've got to remind myself of that all the time. How strong the strong will it takes to apply these principles. Amazing. We're going to cut away, take a break. We have a couple of sponsors that want to share their message, and we're going to take a break and then come back to Spurrier's Gridiron Grill inside the Coach's Podcast Room, talking with Matt Thompson and Jimmy Casello from Dale Carnegie Training of Jacksonville. This is Motivation U, the podcast.
We still hear it. The sound of victory. The joy of being part of something great. And while things may not be the same right now, we haven't gone anywhere. If you bleed orange and blue, then Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Jeffrey, what are you doing?
Well, I'm joining the band, of course. Since Meldon Law is the official law firm partner of the Florida Gators, I want to help.
Dad, we're litigators. Let's stick to helping people in the courtroom.
Well, can we still hang out and jam a little bit? At Meldon Law, we won't back down.
Looking for more reasons to celebrate? We have them here at Celebration Point. Enjoy some of the newest additions to our already celebratory lineup, like Dave & Buster's, Les Macarons, and Prime and Pearl. There's always a reason to celebrate. Join us anytime for any occasion. Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate.
Welcome back to Motivation U, the podcast. My name is Bob Ganzak, and we're coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We're originating from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in beautiful Celebration Point inside the coach's podcast room, and I can hardly wait to get back there. I just haven't been able to travel for the last couple of days. I can hardly wait to get back there. I absolutely love that place. And Jimmy, you are going to absolutely love that place too when you get to go there. With me today are Team Carnegie out of Jacksonville. It's Matt Thompson, who is our consultant that handles Tallahassee and Valdosta and Tifton and Thomasville and Lake City, Branford, Waycross, Douglas, I mean, a bunch of places. And Jimmy Casello, our consultant who handles the world in Nassau County, Duval County, St. Johns County, along the coast in Jacksonville. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with both of you. You know, I started this podcast, I don't know, we're getting close to 70, I think 70 episodes. I'm not sure. So it's many weeks ago. And I started this podcast because I always felt that you didn't need to have the last name of Musk or Gates or Buffett or to be a great leader. You know, some of our best leaders are influencing people, you know, at the Walgreens, down the street, Dollar General, a restaurant, where they're making an impact on people's lives. And it might only be 15 or 20 lives. It might not be, 20 million, but it doesn't make them any less of a leader. And what I like to look at are what are the skills and what are the attributes of those individuals that help them be that. And when I put the Dale Carnegie principles to life, those are the things that people do in order to help. Jimmy, you mentioned it earlier. Simply a smile. Do you want to be around a leader that, has the look of Genghis Khan all the time, that is just a negative Nancy and always bringing other people down and telling you the worst that can happen? And I mean, would you actually want to get up and go to work the next day knowing that somebody's going to tell you that you don't have a chance in Hades to succeed? Thoughts, guys?
Yeah, no, Bob, you're exactly right. I mean, smile is huge. And you mentioned it earlier, begin with praise and honest appreciation, which is another great principle of Dale Carnegie. And it's, great leaders, especially the ones that I've been around, great leaders, if you're working for them or working with them, whatever it may be, if you're doing something well, they point it out to you. They tell you when you're doing something well. And, you go through life, and life's too short, right? So many people are used to the opposite, are being told what they don't do well, or no, you're doing it wrong, do it this way. But what about complimenting people on what they do well? That's just another powerful component of Dale Carnegie. And that's what great leaders do, no matter who they are.
Matt, your thoughts?
So I think that, especially in the industries I've come from, that we think that the person who knows how to do the most is going to be the best leader. And I've often said a great electrician, great welder, great mechanic does not always make a good leader.
Mm-hmm.
It's the people who can motivate their people under them. It's the people who have that compassion and that love for the people under them. And these principles, you cannot have compassion for people or not have compassion for people if you're practicing these principles, because you are thinking about them first, and all great leaders do that. We talk about all the buzzwords around servant leadership and all of this and all of that's all great, and they're all wonderful ways of being a leader, but the truth is, be a good person and care about the people under you, and then the rest will follow.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Pat, is that people have made a lot of money coming up with terminologies like servant leader and this and that, and the genre of that type of mentality started back in 1936 with the writing of this book, in my opinion. Okay, my opinion. I'll say that. And Mr. Carnegie wasn't like, be a servant leader or be this. It was just live intentionally and be a better version of you that you were yesterday, and continue work to get better. Apply these principles and you will, and that's an amazing thing. One of the great things I admired about both of you guys came from completely different industries, completely different industries. Yet one of the things that I admired about you is a thread that is almost exactly the same. Matt, you in the lumber world, the lumber industry, people sought you out to make their company more efficient and better. You were sought out, personally sought out. Jimmy, you were the same way. I mean, Mike Walrath started he knew you from interacting with you in another completely different world, yet he handpicked you to be an important part of this new multi-million dollar adventure that he went on. And both of you, that is exactly the same. People sought you out, and that is something that I really admire in both of you. And I see why they did. Maybe it's why I did, looked for both of you to self-starters, positive people, look for the good in others. Both of you leave people better than when you found them. I don't care if you walk into the room and have a 5-minute conversation. For some reason, they feel better about themselves when you guys walk out. It's whatever, the way you treat them and your attention to them as people. Amazing to me when I see that. Jimmy, when we did that class in Douglas with the company, I think of Matt Carver, if you remember Matt, and just, or when we had the tour after graduation of the facility there, I sat back and I said, I was the instructor for 8 weeks and these people absolutely love this young man. That was really cool, And Matt, I see it every single time in a class with us. Like I mentioned earlier, Beth having that conversation with you before class last week, you just see the connection that you have with that individual. And that's applying these principles. Pretty simple. Go ahead, Jimmy. I see you have something on your mind.
No, you're just, I mean, thinking back to that incredible group of people there at Southwire. And no, I appreciate, your praise too, Bob. That's very nice. But yeah, it's back when I worked at a hoopy, we would always get phenomenal compliments of the club there, what it turned into, the caddy program, what that developed into. And I'd hear a lot, Jimmy, man, what a great program you built here. And I would first of all say thank you, genuinely thank you. And we built it together. And they would say, who's we? I'd say me and the caddies. There wasn't one decision that I went about without clearing it with them first to see if it was something that they would follow, right? People support a world they help create.
Yeah.
And that's something that I learned in Dale Carnegie, red light, green light meetings. Well, vice versa, green light and red light meetings.
Yeah.
So approaching that startup, if you will, that was all that was on my mind. And they love it, the caddies, that is, because it's fun for them. They help create it. And that transpired into the members and guests who experienced the place loved it as well. And that has everything to do with Mike, nothing to do with me, but they appreciate the caddy program because the caddies were involved in the decision making. Yeah. And it turned into a phenomenal place.
Well, I never had the opportunity to meet Mike, the owner of the place, yet I would venture that he would take zero of the credit and put it towards his team. That's just my guess, and I don't even know the guy, because I know that you wouldn't continue to go back and work for a person that didn't have that type of foundation and integrity, which is interesting. And Matt, you have experienced the good, the bad, and the ugly as far as leadership.
Oh, absolutely.
And, your journey just in the time that I've known you has been, like sitting out on a raft in the ocean. You go up high on the wave and then you go down to the bottom, and you're waiting for, that tsunami to come and knock you out, and that's a sad way to be. Yet you've had some good, very strong leaders too. Thoughts on that? I think of Josh, that you've had the ability to work with.
So absolutely. And, thank you all also, for your kind words. I will tell you that no dynamic shows, or no situation shows the dynamic of this course more than the company that I was previously with. We have 3 different sites within an hour of each other. One of them completely embraced this. Their manager was the highest achievement award winner in his class. We have had 17 people from that facility go through this course. The other 2 have had a couple people here and a couple people there. The one that has had, the Dale Carnegie infusion, as we like to call it, their leader has gone to a different facility to help over there and left them without that top position, and they're still doing great. They're working together well. They are truly a team. When you go and walk through there, you can feel the love and hear the love. Somehow I've gone.
You're still there. You're still there.
So,
keep going.
And it's amazing. It is amazing to see the difference. The other ones, they're still producing, they're still doing all those things, but the dynamic and the feel of the team is different. One of them, there is no team. It's just a bunch of people doing a job. And to see that. The other thing that got me was that I went from being a direct leader as a maintenance manager in a large facility to an influential person to where I had no direct reports. I had to lead strictly by influence, and that was tough. And once I took this course and could see that, okay, there are ways to influence people in a positive way, without, using that authority, it took some time, but I was really able to catch up and get a lot of things motivated and moving in the right direction.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that, because we have 3 individuals from that one facility in the class right now.
Yes.
And you see the enthusiasm and excitement that they have, the eagerness to learn, which is something that has got to be encouraged from another level, because that's not natural. Not everybody is such a huge self-starter, but I look at those individuals in this program right now from that company, from West Fraser, and I see eager, excitable, wanting to better themselves, which only equates to a more successful operation within the organization. And I think of manufacturing and the companies that we've had the opportunity to work with that either do maintenance or manufacture, where they have, it doesn't matter if it's water bottling, which we've had, airplane maintenance, Southwire that is building a product, West Fraser that is building a product. All of these organizations, you need to have so much communication, and the difference in personalities. The steel industry, where you have, high-end engineers and individuals that are managing processes, and then people that are in a very dangerous situation with equipment and product, that if you're not focused, could cause bodily harm at any given time. All of those things come down to communication and people skills and the ability to lead and to manage your stress and your worry, not to let what happened last night affect what's going on today. It's an amazing thing, to see that on a daily basis.
And I can tell you that, especially for the last 3 lumber companies that I worked for, when we would survey the teams at the different, facilities, the number one issue that they had was communication with leadership at every single one. And when you talk about retention, when we would do, why are people leaving? The number one issue was that lack of communication with leadership. It was not money. It was not how hard the job was. It wasn't all these things that we put all this time and effort into changing. It was lack of communication with leadership.
It's so, studies have shown, it was back around 2011, 2012, when that employee engagement thing really started, exploding and onto the scene. And I can remember I did it like in December of maybe 2010. I did a workshop with a group, the pantry stores, on employee engagement. And a lot of the things that I learned myself studying for that and preparing for that stay today. Those 3 things that drive engagement. Number 1 is the immediate relationship with your immediate supervisor. 2 is belief in senior leadership. 3 is pride in the organization. When you start listening to what you said, Matt, it's that relationship with your supervisor that is the thing that drives engagement. And in our world, that communication, a lot of times people get into certain parts of their careers, be it mechanic, working engineering, working with your hands, so that they don't have to deal with people. they fall in love with that. So it's a key point there. Jimmy, your thoughts on that aspect of it, of that employee engagement and the interaction with that immediate supervisor. You had a challenge in your world in the past with immediate supervisors.
Oh, absolutely. And it's teamwork, right? We're all in this together, and it starts from the top. A lot of the workers in the workforce that have that issue or that barrier, if you will, with the management or their supervisor, 50% of the time has something to do with the fact that supervisor does not lead by example, right? Or used to lead by example and doesn't anymore, right? I mean, I was watching this thing on Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan said, yeah, he was hard to deal with because he always wanted to win, but he wanted the same for his teammates. And he wouldn't ask them to do something that he didn't do himself, right? Lead by example. And he did it hard and 100%. And the teammates had no choice but to respect him and follow suit, because they knew what that would lead to. They knew what was in it for them too. Championship rings.
Yeah.
And, going back to the teamwork thing, and it starts from the top, and the employee engagement and all that, it starts with a good leader. If you don't have that supervisor who cares about you and who will say, hey, I'll put my book down and my computer away, and I'm going to get my hands dirty and lead by example and dive in with the team here, because we are all in this together. Production won't happen and things won't get done, if there's no engagement.
Yeah,
so
it's true. In our world of what the three of us do now in helping people develop programs to assist their staff is basically what we do. We help identify areas of need and concern that companies and organizations have within their team, and then we work to develop a solution to that, to help them improve that area. And it's still, even 14 years down the road, and I'm sure if we interviewed somebody that has been involved in Carnegie for 40 or 50 years, like Ken Roberts, that just recently retired in the Orlando area, I'm sure if we sat down and chatted with them, that they would still see some of the same things that you and I see today. People will tell you they don't have the time or they don't have the money to invest in their team. Yet I think in most cases the real reason is they don't want to be taken out of their comfort zone. They are, deathly afraid of standing on their feet and communicating with people, or facing reality, facing the truth about what the challenges are within their company or organization. And we think we can fix it all, as business people, but we can't. And that's what the three of us do in our territory, is we help organizations, correct or right a challenge within their team. And we come up with custom solutions. We are able to take different products and put them together and help them drive their team to higher, which, Matt, you talked about within those three plants. The one that is applying that and consistently putting that forward, the results are in, the proof, I should say, are in the results of what the success of the plant has. You have three people, three companies, three organizations, three different locations doing the exact same thing. Why is one running more efficiently?
Right.
Why is one having better communication amongst their team, less turnover, less injuries? And that's a big part of, communication is eliminating those injuries. You and I had an opportunity with a company that we just did an hour workshop with, if you remember that, a few weeks ago. We didn't have the opportunity to make the impact that I'd love to make with that organization, but we got to stand in a room and listen to them talk about their innermost struggles. And just like Jimmy said just a minute ago, it came down to one thing: communication.
Yeah.
And they were talking about injuries and major injuries, people losing arms and hands and legs in their lives in an industry where it's, how do you not invest in that? How do you not improve that communication in that way?
I think too that what happens is that all of these companies, all of these teams are having the exact same conversation, and they all think they're unique.
Yeah.
They don't realize that this is the base. If we can get this right, if we can build that foundation, like we talk about in the class, build that foundation, everything else happens from there. I think back to that meeting that we had, and the comment that I had made that you two teams don't trust each other.
Yeah.
You sit here and you think you do, but look at what you just said. You don't trust each other. You need that trust. It is one thing I love to ask leaders is, how many times a day are you sitting on your position to get things done, as opposed to motivating your team to want to do them? That right there, once they answer that question, that shows me that, okay, this is a communication issue. We can help with that.
Yeah.
So
the confidence level of it too. Sometimes you don't have people have the desire to communicate, but they don't have the confidence to step out of that area and do it. We talked last week at class about, comfort zone versus confidence zone. I like to refer to it as a confidence zone. I want to expand the confidence zone. And I don't want people to be comfortable. That's not what I'm looking for. Comfortable might be sitting on the couch with a dish of ice cream and adding more hot fudge to it and getting nothing accomplished. But the confidence zone is when you're in your confidence zone, you can accomplish more, anything. You can help your team grow. So that's kind of where I come from. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to a long time of working with both of you and helping to grow this. Jimmy, thank you for being here today. Matt, thank you for being here today. Zach, appreciate it very much, sir, being our producer and taking us through this last hour. We'll definitely do it again in a couple of weeks. We'll put this together in another way, and maybe we can all be inside Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Gainesville and do it there. So for Jimmy, for Matt, for myself, Bob Ganzak, this has been Motivation U, the podcast.